Hey, Chris.
Hey, Ike. How are you?
I am good. You know what today is, right?
Today is the big day, the big dozen.
It's All Saints Day, which means they just put Adam in that list of All Saints.
I think there's a lot of Sheena fans out there would put him on that list for sure.
I agree. Oh my God, I am so excited.
So am I. This is going to be a good show.
I think we've been waiting such a long time because we've been talking about it, the unreleased album, and here we are.
Here we are. And you know what else we've been waiting for too?
What?
Your upcoming 50 Shades of Gay Christmas spectacular.
I know. At the Copa, New York City, December 6th.
God, that's going to be a great show.
Yeah.
You've been doing that annually, and I have to just say it's one of the most fun events, festive, laugh your ass off event. So congratulations.
When you're there. Thank you. Yeah, 12 years we've been doing that.
And what else do you have coming up?
A Christmas album.
There we go.
No, I haven't told the title yet. So we're going to work on. I'm going back into the studio tonight. We're going to record a couple more tracks because I'm Celine Dion when I'm in the studio.
Of course. Yeah. Is that post?
Oh, the work this poor man has been going through. And he doesn't want to use auto-tune. I was like, we'll be selling one copy.
No. When you're doing a comedy album, that's kind of part of it. It's not, don't worry about that. I think people are going to enjoy it. I saw I think you played one at the show last year.
Yeah, that was,
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, we were supposed to record more, but the gentleman who produced that track, the track prior, got sick, and I don't think he's coming back into the studio anytime soon. So,
did you have him knocked off?
My lips are sealed. All right, come on, let's get into this. Before we do, our show is sponsored by Uberlube. You can visit uberlube.com for all their incredible products. They have been supporting Loose Lips and 50 Shades of Gay for at least 6-7 years now, and we're so grateful for that.
Yes, and we're also grateful for our guest today.
Go for it, Chris.
He's making his record 12th time on the Loose Lips podcast to talk about Sheena Easton's latest release of Strut, the complete EMI Recordings Volume 2, which is a 5 CD, 1 DVD box set. Everyone's a buzz about it.
I know. And it includes the debut release of her lost 1986 album, Shockwave. Oh, come on. And plus, I hear there's a story about Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin that Adam might want to share. Is that true, Adam? I want to hear this.
We are excited. Let's welcome Adam Mattera.
Adam.
Hi. Hello.
There he is.
I feel like I should be sending you Christmas cards now. This is so long, 12 times.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? I know. Am I your most frequent guest then?
Yes.
A broken record. Oh my God, you can't get rid of me.
Yeah.
Coming back.
We have a red,
having me again.
Red Queen that's been coming on a couple of times. I think she's trying to catch up, but
I think Ike's writing a song called "The 12 Episodes of Adam." That'll be on.
You'll have to come to New York to film the video for sure.
Oh, I'd love that.
My God. Congratulations, Adam. This has been the buzz all over. Like the Sheena fans have been coming out in droves. They have been sending in questions, how appreciative they are of all the work that you've done on this project.
I know. It's had a really good reception. I'm really pleased about it. It's sold out already. So the first one did as well. The first one did. And this one did even quicker, I think, actually. Wow. Which doesn't hugely surprise me because of after it happened with the first one, I thought this one would actually do better because of the amount of unreleased material, because of the DVD. Yeah. And then, of course, literally exactly a week ago, was it last Sunday? I'm not sure. The New York Times ran a big piece, an interview with Sheena, this is the most high-profile interview she's done for, years. And that's been picked up all around the world. It's been running Hello Magazine, the Times in the UK, Daily Mail.
Yeah.
So there's been a real snowball effect because of that as well. It's helped, I'm sure. So yeah, it's been quite a build up.
Yeah, and all the pictures in this booklet, the clarity, some of the pictures I had from the tour book when I went to her show in 1984 from a
Right.
private heaven, and seeing some of the ones that weren't in the tour book that I've never seen before are
Right.
wild. The red robe cover is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Stunning.
Yes. Well, across the board, you know, on every aspect of it, from the pictures to the audio to everything, I've tried to make it, you know, as fresh and original and try not to repeat things. So, I mean, I would say, I don't know if all of them, but most of the pictures in here haven't been in any of the other products, the other releases to date, just to keep it fresh, you know, and interesting.
Yeah.
And like, so all on the individual wallets for each disc inside the box, rather than just do a straightforward reproduction of the original album, it's another shot from the same session, for most of them at least, and keeping with the same logos and the same kind of fonts, and just trying to keep it all interesting and fresh and do it to the best as possible, really.
And that's what I love too. That's what's making these CDs sell so quick too, because there's things that we haven't seen before. Not just the music, but also the stories, the pictures.
Yes.
It's just phenomenal. I was hoping we could start out with A Private Heaven.
Sure.
If we can, because one of my favorite albums of all time. But the amount of alternative versions that are in here are incredible.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
that was fun.
Well, I mean, what happened there was, you know, as the campaign has progressed, I've kept going back to the vaults and finding more things, finding more access, having access to other material. There are literally thousands, maybe thousands is too much. There are certainly hundreds, well over 1,000 tapes in there, multiple things. And they're not all particularly, I've talked about this before, but they're not necessarily catalogued specifically, so you don't know exactly what's on them until you get them digitized, and that takes time, that takes money. So as I've been going through, I've been finding more things. So I wanted to just really make it as much value. I wanted to get those things out there for a start, if Sheena would agree to having them released, and for most of them she did. So that was a real bonus. And also I wanted to not just especially for albums like Do You and A Private Heaven, which have been out before in the campaign as deluxe. For the people that had bought them previously, I wanted them to have something extra and something more. And so I've added bonus tracks. When I've had a lot of other alternate mixes or versions, I've swapped out some of the album versions, like for the long version of whatever track it might be. But yeah, so that was exciting with Private Heaven, for sure. I think there's a version of Have You Ever Been in Love on there, which wouldn't have been heard before.
Yes.
If I remember rightly.
Yeah, there's a piano version, I think, right?
Yes, yeah. So that's never been heard.
Nice.
Because basically when you get the tapes done, there are some tapes which are like flat mixes, which you can get done, but I managed to get hold of the actual 24-track masters for some of these things, which is why some of these alternate vocal takes, they're from the actual 24-track masters. Wow. So when you get the masters digitized, obviously it's 24 tracks. On some of them, you get like up to, on some of them was even like, I think like the most was like even like 10 or 11 takes. Most of the time you do that many takes. Most of the time you do maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
And what you find, which is incredible, listening through all those takes, is that, which really speaks to Sheena's ability as a vocalist, is that there is no bad take. There's no take where it's like, maybe there might be the odd bit of phrasing which wasn't quite as good as it could have been. It's a little bit better, but essentially they're all great. And so what you have there is the actual released version would have been comped together from the best bits of all those, but you still have all these other great things. So I was able to do these alternate takes, get them from the masters, and put them out there. And often you'll hear, I mean, particularly people that are, if you're really familiar with her albums and heard them over and over again, you'll notice that they say, "Oh, actually, she's phrasing that line completely differently." Particularly on the ad libs towards the ends of the tracks, it's like those are completely different ad libs.
Yeah,
well, that's a completely different phrasing.
the process of comping back then was much different and much more difficult than it is today. So today you could digitally just go ahead and you could do line by line. Back then they had to do it with physical tape, like they had to cut tape it together. So
Yes.
typically you would find that they would use a very large segment of different vocal takes just because it was very difficult. You couldn't do, cut and tape for a line by line thing. So you were able to find, I think, some real magic in some vocal takes and let us hear that in a different way. So we appreciate that, all those outros and different things that you were able to find and actually piece together and put it out in one alternative vocal take is extraordinary to be able to hear that, because they can't pitch, because as you're saying, she did and is such an exceptional vocalist. They could not possibly include every magic moment that happened. They had to really choose and say, all right, this is what we think is the best. And we all know sometimes someone else might say that was the best right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's subjective. But it really, hearing them, it's like, oh my God, she was so incredible. I mean, I know we're talking about No Sound, we're talking about Private Heaven right now, but on No Sound But Heart, the track Still Willing to Try, which is actually my favorite of all the outtakes, is beyond. I mean, it's to me, it actually surpasses the recorded version, the originally released version. It's so raw and incredible. It's like, oh my God, it's shockingly good.
Yeah, I mean, you see the production level on the track they put out, and her vocals weren't as upfront. And then when you hear this, and you could hear her breathing, and it's just flawless.
Yeah, it's like, the hairs on your arms almost go up on it when you hear it, and it kind of makes you realize that, like you were saying, the techniques have changed. They used to have to physically cut the tape. I remember reading about this when I was reading a biography about Barbra Streisand for her classical album. Yeah. They talked about how much of that they had to do because she was working in a genre she wasn't used to doing, and she was very meticulous about getting the very best takes, and they had to do a lot of that sort of thing. Now you don't have to do it. It's such easier. But now, of course, as well, what you couldn't do then, and why you didn't need to be as a vocalist at the level of a Barbra Streisand or a Sheena Easton, who would just be able to come in and hit it, and be able to do, as Christopher Neal said when I interviewed him, she was always on tune and on time. And it's amazing how many vocalists he's worked with when he works with vocalists today, that they aren't necessarily on tune or on time. And it would seem like a basic thing, but today it's not necessary because you can be auto-tuned. So if it's slightly off, it's fine. They can fix it in the mix. It's absolutely fine. Back then, that was not an option. There was no such thing. No. And so every take that Sheena did was original, and they were great. And so that we have the opportunity to put something out. Yeah.
Before we move on to Do You, I just want to touch base on one other thing of Private Heaven. The alternate versions and the acoustic versions of Love and Affection, which I think are tied into what we're talking about.
Yes.
I think just hearing it, because, what we're used to is hearing the production that was kind of in the time of, like, as Ike was saying, Still Willing to Try. That was a very 80s ballad production at that time. And now for you to present just the song with a piano or acoustic, and you get to just hear the core elements of her talent and the song, the melody of the song. It's like without the bells and whistles of what was contemporary at that time. So that's another thing to appreciate. And Love and Affection is just it's an exquisite performance, and just one of the best written songs too. So thank you again for that. That was great.
Another one that's really great on that, actually, when you were talking, I just think about it, on Private Heaven, is the track Fallen Angels, the B-side. Yes. And listening to that, there's a chord, which I hadn't really, because I was listening to it over and over again, because it's different vocals, and hearing there's a choral section, a kind of bridge section, where she's singing all these different vocal parts. It kind of breaks down. It kind of has
all the harmonies.
The harmony, and it's like, amazing, and it's foregrounded a lot more on this alternate mix on here. So it was great to have an opportunity to do. Yeah, there's other lovely little bits like on Back in the City. There's an alternate version where all those funny effects that were put in of the city sounds. There's more of them and different ones. It's like, oh wow, it's so exciting when you hear this stuff for the first time, and you get the tapes back and you're listening, going, oh, that's completely different, know. And that has been in the vault for years and years.
Not just even hearing, but reading. Like the notes that you have just from the interviews with Greg, Tim Scott, and Charlie Dorr. Wow. Like, and then to find out Swear was supposedly for Tina Turner and David Bowie.
That's right. When I spoke to Tim Scott, when that track first came out, he cut it on his album. So he had a solo album and he cut Swear. In fact, I think it may well have been a single.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't a big hit or anything.
No.
But it got to the attention of people. And you could just imagine, and there was interest from other people, other artists to cut it. And obviously, and Sheena ended up doing it. But there was one point where Tina was in the frame to do it, which you could do. I could totally imagine that. That song would totally end it. So it may have been a bigger hit. It probably would have been, I'd imagine.
Also, happy that Prince didn't get his way releasing Sugar Walls as the first single. Because I don't think it would have done as well.
No, I think you're right, because I think that Strut kind of reintroduced. It would have been too sudden, much of a hard turn for sure. Right. I think that Strut was kind of the right record to reintroduce her back in, to relaunch her and with the album with that. I think so. I agree. I
think just on a final note with that, Sugar Walls. If you look back in the Billboard, you'll see that it was a number one seller on the 12-inch, and I think it hit number 2 in sales.
Yeah.
What if radio had played it, like in New York, Z100 only played it for 3 weeks because they succumbed to the pressure of people calling in and complaining about it, and they took it off the air after only 3 weeks of airplay. So I imagine if it had been released later, when people weren't so uptight about lyrics, I think it would have been probably a top 5, if not number 1 song. So,
yeah,
it really did make an impact very quickly, but the public really was like enamored by it and was buying it. It just was, radio was just a little hesitant. Some stations didn't play it at all. The big ones played it for a while and then stopped earlier than they would have on a hot song like that. So
right, yeah. Of course, another interesting thing about that sequence is that, like, that maybe we talked about this before, but just to mention it quickly, is that there was a lot of speculation the third single was going to be Hard to Say It's Over because she performed it on television, and two up-tempo songs. She'd been known, she had big hits with ballads. A third single as a ballad would have probably been a smart move. Not that there's anything wrong with Swear, I love Swear, but Hard to Say It's Over, I imagine, would have kept the momentum a lot better. And there's quite a nice rock mix on here, which kind of amps the kind of stadium rock vibe of it.
Agreed. So now, if we're going to go into Do You and still talk about singles, it was interesting to see, because I think we've talked about this in the past, when Don't Break My Heart, Don't Turn Your Back was going to be released as the single choice, but they didn't want to do it after the disappointing sales of Swear. So they went with Do It for Love.
I think that may well have been. Yeah, I can't remember if someone actually told me that or whether that was speculation.
I think that was Junior, the writer of the song.
Oh, was it Junior said that?
Yeah, when they heard the song, they thought for sure it was going to be a single. They were very excited about it. Yeah. And then maybe but after Swear, that was never going to happen. I don't think.
Yeah, which kind of sucks because I think it would have been a big hit.
Yeah, I think that could have been a hit. I think Don't Break Your Heart could have been a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Do It for Love was a hit, but I don't think it's not a hit of the same level as the previous hits from Private Heaven, of course. But there's so many catchy songs on that album. It's one. If they'd had scored one top 10 hit, I think it would have been a very different story for the album.
Yep,
I agree. I'm gonna read a question that's related to this, just so that we get it. It's a question from Kai. No, sorry, I'm sorry. It's a question from Gary, and he says, Hope you're well. Greetings from a rain-soaked London. I have a question for Adam, if it's possible to ask. I know I asked this question before regarding the alt video of Do It for Love. It doesn't appear in the DVD, but it does get a mention in the booklet. So I'm just wondering if Adam simply couldn't find it or whether there was a problem clearing it. Very curious as to this hidden gem. Thanks again for all you do, Ike. Take care, Gary.
Yes, I found it, but I couldn't use it because it had degraded to a level where the quality of it was so bad that it wasn't usable. And tracking down the video, I mean, that was a whole saga in itself. These things are like, over what are they, 4 decades old? My maths is
yeah. What are you?
Yeah.
And they were shot on video. Some of them were shot on film. Okay, so if they were shot on film, then that was. If I could get hold of the film, then that would be the ideal thing. But the videos can degrade, just as the audio can degrade. And I have discovered in this process, not like something I've dealt with particularly before in terms of video stuff. So there was a whole making the videos look as good as they do. I'm thrilled at the final outcome. I really am, because they look incredible. And I think a lot of people misunderstand. I see people talking about they should do the videos 4K. It's like that doesn't mean anything. There's no such thing. These were shot on actually on videotape, most of them, apart from the very early ones.
Most of the comments I've seen have said that they were expecting them to not be as good as they were. They're actually very pleased with how you restored them. Yeah,
which is great. Yeah, I'm glad that people can see that, because I worked with a different team on this particular one to make it the best. A guy called Barney Ashton. He really oversaw that and really knows what he's doing and did it the most professional. They look as good as they possibly can. They couldn't look any better with what the source material. Unfortunately, just get back to the question, Do It for Love version 2. I did find the original tape of it. I think it was a pneumatic tape, but unfortunately, it was degraded and it couldn't be used.
Did it explain why she was? Did it explain why she was so angry? Because I know people note that in the performance, which it turned out to be just a performance video, she seems angry throughout the whole performance. And I imagine that's because the plot of the storyline probably had some reason for why she was presenting it that way.
From what I understand, yes. Because there's more of a storyline with, what's the name of the actor again? The dude who's in it.
The Titanic, right?
Yeah, can't remember.
I can't remember his name. But that actor, who also reappears in Magic of Love, they have a storyline between them, and there are sections in the other alternate version of Do It for Love where there's sort of night sections, apparently, where it looks like they're being filmed at night or something. I've not seen it. I didn't even know it was aired. Maybe it was aired. I don't know how people have seen it. Maybe it was aired.
It's on. Well, there's an interview with her on Entertainment Tonight, and they're filming it at night in Chinatown.
And you see little clips of it, right? Yeah. So anyway, it wasn't that it wouldn't be cleared or anything like that. That wasn't the reason. The issue was basically couldn't find a good enough quality version.
So my question is, did you find it harder to get good quality on the videos versus the audio? Because I know you said you had to do like a bunch of like a process with the audio portion. Was the video the same, or was it a lot of it dated?
In a way, it was harder with the video, I think, really.
Yeah.
Because I mean, actually, some of the frames have to be not colorized as such, but like rebalanced, and the saturation. There's all kinds of. The guy explained it to me, the technical stuff. I don't really get it, but I think it's from what I understand is that when you are there are certain compromises you have to make the quality look as good as it can. So you may lose some sort of detail in the background in order to make it look as sharp and as bright in the front, or you may have to make it slightly darker to make it pop more, which means certain things you can't see, and then you can. There's all these kind of. It's a whole sort of like this whole process, basically. Yeah.
Well, Jimmy Mac alone.
Sorry.
Jimmy Mac alone, because it was the big fantasy video with the glitter and the lighting, and it was really, really spectacular.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I have
We
to
have
say,
got two versions of. We have got the alternative version of Magic of Love on there.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, and when I watch, it's like, it's exactly the same, but it isn't exactly the same. I was watching it was the same, and then I realized that it's very, very subtly different.
Yeah.
So I
Even
just thought, well, why not put it on? I've got it. Why not put it on if there's space?
yeah, even when the lightning strikes again, I love that version. Like I love how you could hear, like, maybe it's almost like she's singing with herself on one part of it, I believe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was talking about the video for Magic of Love, but yeah, you're right. On when on the audio tracks.
Yes.
Yeah, those mixes are slightly. It's quite subtle on some.
Yeah.
But others, once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's different. Or oh, the horns are different on here. Or the ad libs at the very end of Jimmy Mac, which I really love. Actually, they're fantastic. But they're just little. Yeah, it's exciting to hear that stuff.
I'll tell you, I gave it a quick listen, and my initial thought is that I like these mixes better than the previous mixes that you've released. So even the original ones, I like these because to me, I hear the vocal up front more, and it sounds like more like a Sheena Easton album, because typically her vocals were always placed up front. And I felt with Nile Rodgers, they were put back in the mix a little bit more than I was used to, I guess, as a fan. So I feel like these versions it sounds like more like a Sheena Easton album to me. I just really enjoy hearing the vocals up front. So yeah, it was cool to hear that.
You know why that's it? One reason why that's particularly interesting is because that's the same thing that people were saying about the Diana Ross album that he worked on with Diana 3 years before this, 4 years, I think. 4 years maybe. 4 years before he did the classic Diana album with I'm Coming Out and Upside Down and all that stuff on it. And it was famously remixed before it came out. And then it was decades later, the original mixes came out with Diana's vocals a lot more up front. No, the other way around, sorry.
Other way around, yeah.
Diana.
The other way around. It sounded more like a Chic record, the original album,
right.
And they took it out of Niall's hands, much to his annoyance, and made it sound a bit like a Diana album. They're both great in different ways, in my opinion. And with the Sheena thing, those mixes that you're hearing now on here, those alternative mixes, are actually they are earlier. They are indeed because I can tell by the dates on the tape. They were earlier versions. So on those earlier mixes, her vocals were more up front, and I agree, they're better.
Yep.
Get more Sheena. Who want more Sheena? I want more
Sheena.
Oh,
and you've given us more Sheena, thank God. So let's go into the next disc. Chris, you want to lead that one off?
Yes.
Sure. So this was the very controversial topic of No Sound But a Heart. And I guess I'll just talk quickly about what we do know, and then Adam, you can just confirm it or say,
sure.
No, that's not what I found out.
Sure.
This is how I think the trajectory happened with No Sound But a Heart. And we'll be talking about, obviously, Shockwave, which is a compilation of tracks that you found that were recorded for a potential album that never was released. So my understanding is that in the spring and summer of '86, she went into the studio with Narada Michael Walden and Nick Martinelli. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. Narada first and then Martinelli afterwards, yeah.
And those tracks were going to be for an album that was supposedly going to be released in the fall. And we know that one of those tracks, Anything Can Happen, was prepped for a single release for, I think, September of '86. And then for some reason, and we're speculating, we'll probably never truly know, but for some reason, that idea and that album was put off. Some say it might have been because of the lack of a bigger success for So Far So Good, which, everyone was expecting to be a massive hit. It should have been. And then the album was kind of reconfigured. She went into the studio and recorded 5 tracks with Keith Diamond. That album, which was going to be just produced by Narada and Keith Diamond, which I think you have a track list for, was going to be released in January. And the initial single for that was prepped was Sweet Talker, which was remixed for single release by Shep Pettibone. For some reason, and she even announced that album being produced only by Keith and Narada in her fan newsletter in January of '87. And that's the one, people have said, oh, I remember seeing that in a kiosk. I think you found a track list for that. And it didn't include the Nick Martinelli track. So for some reason, those were put aside, and this new album was. Then it was delayed again. And now that's when Prince, the Eternity session was recorded. The Phil Ramone Wanna Give My Love was added. And they decided to release they proposed to release another version of the album, and it was going to be just focused on the mid-tempos and ballads that all the producers had contributed at that point. And so then that was originally the conception, and it was released, I think, in the summer, but only in Japan. And then obviously we've received it in a reissue in 2000. But so that was the trajectory of what I believe was supposed to be for this album. Have you heard anything differently since that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to piece it all together. I mean, the timeline you just suggested sounds more or less, yeah. It feels to me like then possibly it just was a constantly evolving, ongoing project that just went on. So clearly there was definitely an album that was meant to come. An album came out once a year. That was her standard. So an album was expected. It's speculation about whether it was a success or failure of so far so good. But it seems if so far so good, top hit, I'm sure it just seems no brainer that things would have been different. What's interesting and what is I'm not clear exactly. I saw that one configuration that was completely different. That was, I believe, late '86 configuration. But I believe that there may have been more, and I imagine there were. I think I got the impression it was a constantly evolving thing. What I find one of the things I find fascinating about it, and that the tape research showed to me, which surprised me, was like this track. Because first of all, as I think I've said before, when I saw Sweet Talk, all the tapes called Sweet Talk, because on most of the tapes it's called Sweet Talk, I was like, why are there so many tapes of Sweet Talk? It's just a track from Best Kept Secret, and then I realized. Because you could on some of the on the manifest it's called, you can see it said Pettibone. It's like what is this? Whereas it's a completely different track. And there's loads of them of this. Sometimes it's called Sweet Talk, and some of them were called Sweet Talker. But on the early track list, actually, it was called Sweet Talk, which it says on the actual tape. But obviously, it was changed later. I realised it was the same name as something she recorded a few years before. Anyway, what's amazing about that is that Shep Pettibone was so hot at the time, you know, he hadn't quite reached his peak, which happened with Vogue with Madonna in 1990, but he was certainly on his way. He was one of the hottest club mixers, whatever, and it would have been expensive to get him in. They'd already produced that track, Keith Diamond in New York, and then they spent all this money to basically reproduce it, sort of remix it and produce it. He's credited as producer actually on the tapes. But essentially, he's like reconstructing the song. And that would have been really expensive. So somebody certainly was championing. I can't say that word. Try it. Championing.
Now I can't. Thanks.
Somebody was really into the idea of her as a club diva, you know, as a club track. And so these clubby songs, like Anything Can Happen, Sweet Talker in particular, most of the Martinelli sessions are presenting her in that mode. And the track list I saw is kind of it's like a 50-50. Some mid-tempos and ballads, some of that. It's interesting, the record that finally came out, that was completely removed. And I always thought, before I did this, that I thought the story was quite simple. So far so good, didn't do very well. She recorded some up-tempo songs. Because they didn't do well, they dumped those and put out ballads. But I think, given that there was this amount of money invested in that actually what may have happened, and this is kind of speculation, but I feel that what may have happened is that somebody or certain amount of A&R or people in the label, somebody was really into that direction, and I don't think Sheena was, because I certainly think, because she did give some when No Sound actually did come out in the end in the final version, she certainly kind of gave an interview which was basically saying, I want to do something along the lines of just really championing the idea of her as a ballad singer.
Right, because she was still recording ballads in '86 for a dance album anyway. Last to Know, I think, recorded in the summer of '86, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the Last to Know, which is why it's on that disc that I've called Shockwave, I include the single version on there, because that's one of Martinelli's. Is the one, and of course she did Rhythm of Romance as well. So there were ballads that she was recording on those sessions, and the Narada stuff. All the Narada stuff she recorded for the very first big session with him, which followed on from So Far So Good. There were the ballads like Floating Hearts and What If We Fall in Love and all that. They were all recorded then. So she was recording both. But then,
it was it was going to be her another extension of her pop R&B records. Like Nile Rodgers was more moving in that dance R&B pop, and it had some groove ballads, and it seemed like, when they hooked her up with Narada, Nick, and Keith, who all had very successful careers at that point, producing R&B artists that crossed over to pop. So it seemed logical, and it was going to be a balance. It sounded like both albums, if they went with just the Narada and Nick album or the Narada and Keith album, they both would have included ballads. And again, at this time, there was also a change in the executives, because in the beginning of '87, I think, EMI was merged with Manhattan Records. So there was a whole new slew of people, and maybe they came in and said, no, we're not going to back this. We want you to focus on this. Or maybe she was able to say to them, I'm not happy with this, and I'd like to focus on recording an album of mid-tempos and ballads.
In the one statement I did find, which I included in the booklets, I think it was printed in Billboard, or maybe it wasn't Billboard, but there was a statement from Harriet Wasserman, who was Sheena's manager during that era, who cited used the term creative differences, which can obviously mean a whole bunch of things. But there was a sense that what the direction that Sheena wanted to go in was different to where EMI wanted to go in. That may have been part of the story.
I do remember at the time, Sheena, a statement from her. This is when she was with MCA. She said that she went in recording that album knowing it was not going to be released, knowing that it was, she called it a sacrificial lamb. So yeah, that's what, maybe because there was so much turmoil and so many, she just knew that this was not a good thing, but she was going ahead with recording. And
well, I definitely get the sense like she was continually doing all these sessions, all this work, and she was going all over the place doing it, because she was doing some out in San Rafael with Narada, then she was doing it in the sessions with Philadelphia with Martinelli, and then New York with Keith Diamond. So she was traveling and doing a lot of work, and it kept going on and on and on, and nothing was coming out.
Right.
So the expenses were piling up.
Well,
and
exactly.
Then,
it's about money, I'm sure, too. Yep.
Yeah. And I guess when they finally were like, "Oh, we've got a Prince song," and that'll work. You know what I mean? He's the hottest thing around. So finally, we've got a hook to put the album out on. But by that time, so much had gone on in the background. There was so much conflict and things changing that the album never even ended up coming out at all in America. So
once we all have the chance to listen to all these, the Shockwave album and all these tracks, I think we'll be able to determine whether or not finally which one was the best. And we'll all have different opinions. Oh, they should have went with this. And I'm sure some fans will be able to come up with their own track list of what album would have worked the best.
Yeah, but also just to be clear, because it's getting misunderstood, is that so then there never was an album that was pressed called Shockwave.
Right.
That's why it's called Shockwave, and I think I've subtitled it the Lost Sessions, the Lost 1986 Sessions or whatever. So there never was the actual, but there was an album's worth of material and this is that album sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because there were all the recording was happening. So some tracks that ended up on No Sound But Heart were recorded right at the beginning in the early sessions in '86 as well. So
that's a good point.
It wasn't like she recorded a dance album and then she recorded a ballad album.
Yeah.
She recorded all the albums, all the stuff, all the material was ongoing, and at any point, any of it could have come out in any configuration.
We have a question from Jeff. He has a few questions regarding this release, and this is going to be fun for all of us. So, what is your favorite lost track from the Shockwave disc, if you had to pick?
Oh, I like that question.
Yes. So, Adam, you go first. A before all the other ones.
Oh my God, what was my favorite track? Well, my favorite of I do love Shockwave itself, actually. The track Shockwave is fantastic. But I mean, I know that's been around. That's one of the ones that has been around. That's probably the only one that had, one of the few that has, because it was on a B-side. But of the ones that have just been hanging in the vault for years, I think probably I really like Rhythm of Romance.
Okay.
Interesting, Michael J, when I spoke to him, he wasn't so hot on that song. He kind of was like, yeah, it's okay, whatever. But actually, he wasn't so hot on the production. I think he felt the production was a bit middle of the road. But I kind of think it's great, actually. Yeah. I really love that song. And I like her tone on it.
We had Michael J on the same year that you first came on, because of the release of that box set at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he's great. Oh, he's fantastic. And I love Anything Can Happen.
Yes.
To me, that's a no. I mean, I know that we'd end up putting that out, or a version, the single version, I think it was, came out on the first thing I did for Sheena. The album version's longer and different. But I think that's a great song. That's a hit. That's a hit song to me. That sounds like a hit song.
Oh, totally.
Don't Wake Me Up From My Dream is another one on there, which sounds like a hit song. There's quite a few. One of them, 5 Star Affair, which is very catchy. It's a Narada song. Narada produced track. That was on one of the configurations that was actually released as a potential track listing of the album. One of the Narada, oh God, I'm getting confused. Which one's the Narada? That's the Narada Michael Walden one, definitely. And that was on there, and that's a really good track. Another one that sounds like a hit.
Yeah. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, that's my 5 Star Affair is my favorite of all the unreleased tracks that were presented, and it definitely it reminds me a little bit of Freeway of Love, because Sheena does this little spoken part like Aretha did in Freeway of Love. That's kind of cool, and it was interesting to hear her doing that. But the whole track, I think it could have been a single and could have been a hit.
Yeah.
What about you, Ike?
Listen to them yet, Ike?
Yeah, mine Is It True? Oh my God!
Oh wow!
Oh. I mean, the la la la. It was so damn catchy, and the belting she does, and it was fabulous. I think that could have been a hit.
Oh yeah, there's that whole sort of chanted la 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 part, isn't there? Yeah, which is great. It's true. Yeah, it's great.
And you said you can't sing, Ike.
There's auto tune in this.
I have a question from Kai Boyd.
Sure.
He says, "Hi Ike, excited for your next Sheena show. Here are a couple of questions for Adam. One, will the Lost Shockwave album eventually be released on vinyl by Cherry Red? And 2, I'm a big fan of Wanna Give My Love. Are there any other songs that Sheena worked on with the legendary Phil Ramone? Thanks, Kai."
Will it be released on vinyl? I don't know for sure yet. I would like to do that, and I think it totally makes sense to do that. But that hasn't. It's not been confirmed yet whether that's going to happen or not. I'd like it to. It totally makes sense for it to, but fingers crossed it will. For Ramone, oddly, it appears not. It appears it's just that one track. I mean, if it was, it's not in the vault. It's not in the EMI vaults at all. It just seems odd. She's just one track to me, but it appears there isn't. No, it appears it just was that one song. From what
it may have been that at that point they knew that they were gonna release a ballad mid-tempo album and just needed a couple of additional tracks, and that's probably why Eternity was brought into play and the Phil Ramone?
I think it was, you know what? It wasn't the last track. From what I could tell when I pieced together and looked at the tapes and all the different dates, it was almost the last. The actual last, it was the last new session she did, kind of thing. Then she did the Prince thing happening. But see, the Prince thing was kind of almost separate. I think she had a separate relationship with Prince. And so he had that song, and she also did You Got the Look more or less at the same time as Eternity. And I think I got a feeling that wasn't so much organised by the label or her I feel that was something less in their control, potentially. This is again speculation, because she had a separate relationship with Prince, that had nothing to do with them, really.
Right.
Nothing to do with the label. And the very last track she recorded that ended up on No Sound But Heart was actually with Keith Diamond. Because I'd originally assumed all the Keith sessions were done at the same time, but they weren't. She did everything with him, Sweet Talker and No Sound But Heart, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But all the Keith Diamond ones were done in a particular studio in New York. And then one No Ordinary Love, was a different studio. And then I realized actually that was done in early 87. So she went back to New York in early 87 to do that one track with him at a completely different studio. So mostly the same musicians. But that suggests to me that they wanted one, that was like done like another ballad. Because of that, at that point, it was a decision had been made. That was the direction they were going in.
Wow. Well, that in of itself is worth the whole revision of that album, because that's a fan favorite. It's one of my favorite ballads by her. It definitely showed and displayed a side of her vocal ability that was not anywhere on record before that. I know she explored more R&B material that was like pure, like Fire and the Rain with Angela Winbush, but that was just, I mean, the deep low notes and just the ad-libs at the end. And this is an extended version, so I think fans could look forward to that. Also, the Eternity mixes are amazing. The new versions, the old versions.
Yes.
It's the vocal part again, it's up front. And we still have another question, a couple more from Jeff.
Yes.
He wanted to know, was there any Sheena Easton collaborators that you wanted to interview for this box set but couldn't reach? Like Nick Martinelli, Eugene Wilde, or
all of the above. yeah. No one seems to know. There's a big question. Like, where is Nick Martinelli? He hasn't done an interview for a decade. I don't know where he is. I can't find him. I'd love to have interviewed him. I would have liked to have interviewed Eugene. I did try, and I couldn't track him down. But the person I wanted to interview most of all, of course, was Nile Rodgers. And I tried to interview him for the line notes for Do You when that came out. And I tried again and kept trying, but it was impossible. It wasn't like it was going to happen. It wasn't like a complete no. It was like, oh yeah, he's really busy. Let's try again. And it just kept happening. It kept getting delayed. By the end, it was like, oh, it's too late now. I kept trying for a while, and I understand it. I mean, he's literally one of the most famous producers and musicians in the world, and he's constantly traveling the world doing things. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. It would have been really interesting to speak to him. So he's probably the person I most would have liked to have spoken to, I think.
He was quoted in the New York Times article along with our very own Adam Mattera.
Yeah, he was. It's like, that shows the power of the New York Times. It's like,
that's huge. Yeah,
the New York Times comes calling and no answers. Yeah, he was quoting that. And he was.
And Jeff also wanted, just like all the Sheena Easton fans out there, wanted to say how fiercely grateful they are for the efforts that you put on behalf of Sheena Easton fans worldwide. You surpassed all the expectations and then some. And then he wants to know if you'll sign his copy, the volume 2.
Oh my God! If you want me to, I don't know. Wouldn't it ruin it? Why do you want my name on it? I think just save it.
All the hard work. All the hard work. You have to sign my copy. I'm going to come out. I'm going to pack. I'm going to come to the UK. I'm going to bring a lunch full of all your stuff. I hope you don't get carpal tunnel.
Yeah, but that's very nice. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's just been really, like I said, wanting to try and. It's not going to happen again, as we've talked about, and let's do. It may never happen again. I can't say for sure, but I want to make it the best it can possibly be, and I want to get the very best tracks, get as many things out there. Like I said, the Eternity, that was thrilling finding those different earlier versions of Eternity. It's like they're different. It's like amazing. They've been sat in the vault for decades, So yeah, it's all very exciting.
Well, Prince didn't do that one. Who did that again? That was
David Leonard.
Right, because I know when she works with Prince, there were probably so many outtakes and different versions, like what You Got the Look or 101. I can imagine the different takes there are for that, and which brings us back to Shockwave again from Kay.
Yeah. Yes.
Young Hearts Run Free was recorded by Candy Staton in 1976, and it seems it was the only remake for the shelved album. Any idea what Sheena thinks of the 76 version? They give it a nice 80s twist for Sheena, although I think it was quite a bit high for her vocal range. Did Sheena think about other songs from the 70s to redo for the album?
Not that I'm aware of. Interestingly, no sound, but there was a story in Billboard at the time when she was recording with Nick Martinelli, which mentioned that track, which suggested to me that like he felt that okay, we've got a hit on our hands here with this track. Why not? It's a really it's a great song. It's a very immediate song. It has been a hit over and over many times to different people. It's not obviously Candy had that amazing version, but Kim Mazelle did a version that was a hit in the 90s, I think, and various other people have. So it seemed like a sensible idea. I think I make the line, as I mentioned, it kind of almost is like a precursor to what she was doing in Fabulous decades later, On the Fabulous album, she did all those disco covers, and this was this could have fitted in there, as a song. Not necessarily, if not as a production, it's a different production style.
And I would imagine it probably was her choice, because most of the covers you have interviewed the producers and they've said that she's always brought the covers to them, so she probably enjoyed that song and wanted to cover it.
Yeah, I'm sure that absolutely makes sense. Yeah, it's a great song. But whether I don't know if there were any others in the frame, I doubt it, because she only ever usually at the most did one cover. One like well-known cover, I should say, because there were other covers on sometimes. There were more than one cover on some albums, but there was usually one well-known one. You know what I mean? Like Love and Affection, Jimmy Mack. So on. Go back. They just had the one, if they had one. So I can't imagine her doing more, like two big well-known songs on it,
right?
Because it's a bit too much. But yeah, that could have been a hit. There's so many of these songs. I mean, we all have our personal preferences and whatever, I'm sure. But, like Sweet Talker, how would that not have been like a club smash?
Yeah.
Pettibone version. I mean, it literally sounds so, it's so of the time. The sound of it is so that sound. It would have been easily been a top 5, Billboard dance hit.
Right.
But
even Don't Wake Me Up, like when it first starts off, all I hear is like on the big screen in a Brat Pack movie, like I don't know, Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink. It just had that intro that was just a killer intro.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? It does totally sound like a mid-80s movie soundtrack song. Yeah, with someone like Demi Moore sort of flicking their hair walking down.
You could have said
it really is a special song. It sounds like something very different. It's not to me, it's not an immediate like hit song, but it just sounds like very cool, like a great album track, like something that is a little different, a little left to center. It's not a typical Don't Wake Me Up. Not a typical Sheena Easton song for that time, and maybe that's why it would lend itself to what you're saying, to a soundtrack from that time.
What I loved was it was refreshing, the Shockwave album, because she just came off a Do You where she was using her lower register, and I love Sheena because she belts, and this album did not disappoint. Shockwave was clearly, she was in her prime on this. It was just one note after the other, and it was heaven just listening to these tracks.
Yeah, don't wake me up from my dream. I was one of the ones when I was first. I didn't. It was okay, but then the more I heard it, I was like, oh, this is actually a really sort of catchy melody on this song. It's a really reveals itself more the more you play it. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's great material. I don't think there's any bad material on there. I think it's just a choice of direction really that was going on there, and it makes you also realize how the whole thing that was going on, how an artist's legacy is being built in a certain time, and those decisions that are made. Somebody with her ability could do almost anything. At that point in her career, she was working with the top, like you said, the top producers of the day, greatest songwriters. It was about making the right choices, and I guess it's that worry all the time. Like, will I make the right choice? Because
a lot of stress. Yeah, can't imagine.
The stress, the pressure of it. Like this needs to, because it's not guaranteed that it'll be a hit. You'd think that So Far So Good when it came out, that's a guaranteed top 5 single, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I just imagine that if you took a vote of all the Sheena fans, even people I played that for, and said which song of all her songs that she's recorded do you think was a misfire in terms of what it should have done, I think that would be the number one. It's just when you hear it, it's just a hit. I mean, it doesn't matter where it places in the charts. That's a hit song. That's what a hit song sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. When she was recording that song was literally the same time that the Jermaine Stewart song, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, another Nada production, co-write and production, was like number 1 or number 2, I can't remember, but it was a huge hit all around the world. So it's like it's very similar sounding to that, not the same, but it's so much in that mode. It's like if they played that to death, why don't they play this one to death? I don't get it.
How will I know? How will I know? It's funny, like Pitbull. It almost feel like he took a little bit from Narada because he always had his little signature touch in the beginning of each of the songs. How will I know? So Far So Good.
Yeah. The little bass.
Yeah. It was just that signature touch. You knew that was his.
Yes. And now, as we're talking about him, I just to mention just quickly, Narada Michael Walden was so fantastic to interview for this, and I was so thrilled after having tried to get Nile for a lot. I thought, he won't do it. I mean, maybe he will. I'm not expecting it to happen, and it did. And we spoke for an hour or so on FaceTime, and he was so lovely and enthusiastic. And you'll see all his quotes in there. He had such admiration for and respect for Sheena as a vocalist, as a person. They were obviously good friends at that time, and he was fascinating to work with because they recorded virtually an entire album's worth of material. Well, the best part of an album's worth of material. They did a lot of stuff together, and he was just saying what a power. He called her an athlete in her sort of approach to the singing, and
that's great.
It was very interesting, and that's the story as well because you asked about the Aretha and Whitney thing.
Yes, please share.
When I was FaceTiming him, he was in Tarpan Studios, the studio that he's owned, the studio where they recorded those tracks. So was newly built at that time, and it's the same place where he had done all the Whitney stuff and the Aretha stuff. And so he was just basically showing me around, going, "Oh, that's the same microphone. This microphone in the corner, that's where Aretha stood, and that's where Whitney." I was like, "Oh my god,
history, right?"
Yeah,
amazing.
He came to my college back in late '80s, and he did a seminar, and we were able to ask him questions. And I remember him talking about Aretha. And he said that she would come in, unbuckle her pants, and she knew when she got the vocal, and that was it. Yeah. She would record maybe a couple takes, 3 takes, and then she knew when it was over. She was like, "That's the take." And there was no convincing her, let's just get one more. You got it.
Yeah.
There's a great story he tells about how when Whitney, and there's a duet that Whitney and Aretha did. It wasn't Never Gonna Be, it's called, for Aretha's album, and how obviously they were they knew each other well. She'd known her since she was a baby because Cissy Houston was Aretha's sung backgrounds for Aretha, And they'd finally in the studio doing this track together. And on that day, Aretha's demeanor was quite different because it's like she goes into this sort of certain headspace where it's combative because she has to be the best. And Whitney did her vocal, and Aretha wanted to come back to do hers separately to make sure that she, I guess the implication is better than Aretha, or as best as she could. And we're talking about two of the greatest singers in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I have to be honest with everybody out there. I always had a crush on Narada way back in the 80s. Oh, I had such a crush on him when he was playing the drums and the videos. But I know he's married. So if you do see him, ask him if he's interested.
You should get him on the podcast. He'd be great to interview.
I would love that.
He's an amazing man with an amazing energy. He really is. It's kind of quite overwhelming. It's like a hurricane of information energy you get from it. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
he's a lovely man.
Creativity is just phenomenal. He's just a talent.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And I did ask him, by the way, about the sessions with Sheena, and he just said that they were both very disappointed that they were not released. At that time, they weren't released, and I asked him about them, and he said, "Yeah, we were very disappointed they were not released."
Yeah. See, I thought they. You mentioned earlier that the album, when it did eventually come out, No Sound But Heart, was Japan only. I thought some copies also came out in different places in Europe.
I actually picked up a copy. I drove to Canada and got
it. It came out in Canada.
I got a copy. I drove my car. Oh God, I don't even know how many hours it was. I got the last cassette copy, and I ran back home.
Yeah, I remember it officially. I don't know if they did this in Japan, but in Canada, I remember reading that they actually pulled them from the shelves. So they put them out and then were told to pull them from the shelves. So I don't know what was going on legally, if there was a case that.
Well, I remember in the UK that I remember seeing reviews. Well, at least one review. I remember seeing like a review of it because it was due out in like a sort of in a magazine that was like an in-store magazine where they were, I can't remember what was it, HMV or one of the big record stores would have its own magazine, and they would preview the upcoming releases, and they had a review for No Sound But Heart. Never came out. It's like, oh,
I saw one too in an in-store magazine, and it was funny when it was after I had heard the album, or I read about the album being Mid-Tempos and Ballads, and they were talking about the dance tracks on it. And I remember thinking, what are they talking? Now it makes sense. They were actually reviewing an album that had dance tracks on it. I don't know how, so they must have had a promotional copy.
So there were different, so there must have been different points where it was almost going to go out and promos went out, and for whatever reason, it kept getting delayed and withdrawn. But it was like at the point where it was as about to come out.
Yeah,
it's strange. But I know in the end, and there is a line in the liner notes, and there was a quote that I got from someone that Sheena's lawyers didn't want to come out because of the relationship with and what was happening at the label. So they didn't want the album to come out. It came out, So it was a mess, basically. A whole mess of who knows what. I wish I could have got someone from the time. I was hoping, but I couldn't track anyone down, who actually worked at the label. It would have been interesting to speak to find out from their point of view what was going on and why certain decisions were made and what was exactly. So it's kind of like finding these pieces of information and trying to create a narrative out of it, but you don't really know 100% for sure what decisions were made and why.
All right, Adam, we have a couple more questions, and I'm hoping that you have some answers because I don't want this to be the last time you're on our show, obviously. Okay. So Nick and Joseph both want to know about the possibility of doing deluxe editions. I know we brought this up before, of Sheena's album during the MCA years.
Well, I'd love that to happen. Yeah. And I'm currently trying to make that happen. but whether it's not entirely in my control. Well, it's not at all in my control. In fact, it's down to whether it gets it can be licensed.
Right.
There's no real guarantee of that, and so I'm hoping that we can license that the stuff it's Universal basically that own that.
I was going to ask, because Nick did make a great mention that Cherry Red has re-released artists with MCA catalogs. Is it MCA that's the problem, or is it just more like because it's Prince stuff too? And
well, it's not so much that they're a problem. It's like, well, for a start, just because one artist may be able to be re-released, like for example, the MCA Nick Kershaw material was done in a box set recently. That doesn't, by any means, I have discovered in the process of doing this, mean you can assume, that means that they'll do that as well, because it doesn't work that way. It's different artist by artist, country by country. UK signed artists will be completely different from a US signed artist, which is what Sheena would be at the time. Right. And then to complicate things even further, during that period, I think I touched on this before, during that era, they were all Universal owned labels, but at a certain point, I think she was signed to Universal Japan. Another point for Fabulous, she was signed, I think, direct to Universal UK. It's all under the umbrella of the same corporate group, but there'll be separate contracts, and
it's a lot.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
I'm trying to make it happen.
Well,
it's not going to happen in the next 10 minutes, that's for sure.
Oh, no. Maybe not.
I'd love it to. I really, really would love it to happen. Also, unfortunately, the fact that it was like, for example, Cherry Red put out The Lover and Me, a single CD, slightly expanded version, a long time. I think it was about 10 years ago, possibly.
Oh yeah, at least.
I had nothing to do with that. At least 10 years ago. Just because it was licensed once doesn't mean that it will be. That's no indication of whether it can be relicensed again, because it will have the situation will change. I would assume it would, and I did make that assumption myself, but it doesn't appear to be that straightforward, unfortunately. So fingers crossed it will happen, and I am trying to make it happen.
Well,
hopefully the sales of this latest box set will inspire them to work with you.
Well, Joseph,
I hope so.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, I hope so too. And maybe maybe with this, like the New York Times, I don't know. That there does seem to be a sort of the New York Times piece has definitely caught people's attention as well. So hopefully that could be a good thing.
And she's touring a lot too. I see her. She's really traveling. And she was just in Jersey twice when I was traveling doing my show, and I missed her again in Jersey. Sheena, come on, get it together. Give me a call and tell me when you're going to be touring. We got to get it together here.
I can't see. What's interesting? What has happened during the course of this campaign is that UMG have put all her albums on streaming, which weren't on streaming before.
That's right.
Some of them weren't, at least. Yeah. Maybe I think Lover and Me probably was, but what comes naturally wasn't. And so is that a coincidence?
And I'm not sure if you have the answer to this, but I know that I've seen the question online whether or not this latest box set will be released on digitally.
I have no control of that. So, but I would have thought so eventually. But I don't think it'd be. I think it'd be a while.
Yeah, I think that's RT Industries. They would have
exactly. Yeah. So the work I'm doing is for Cherry Red, which is the physical releases. So it's licensing them for physical release, for vinyl or CD or whatever, or DVD. But the streaming side of it will be controlled by RT, so that they control that. And they have their own separate thing about when they do that and how they do that. Didn't they just put out, I think that Do You may have gone up now?
The last thing they did with the single releases that you did, I think maybe it was the vinyl version that you did. I just saw that one up a couple of weeks ago.
I think they did that on streaming though, the new one that you just put out a few months ago for Do You.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on there.
So it isn't. totally following. It's kind of not it hasn't quite been following the same sequence, and I'm not really sure what's going on there. But I'm sure it will come out eventually.
But here's a question we're always getting outside of Sheena Easton. Olivia Newton-John, they are begging for you to get your hands on her reissues.
Oh my God. I mean, I think this question came up before. I mean, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to happen. Well, someone else, it's controlled by Primary Wave, right? So they have their own people that do that. So I don't think I'd love to, but I can't see that happening really.
And he has to
all those
focus on
other fans that are out there now that are seeing these incredible box sets that you're putting together. And I had Laura Branigan's, and it was just so disappointing.
Yeah, she's another person that really deserves a decent treatment. She made great records.
Totally. And Greg Matheson.
Oh, wow. What a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Olivia as well. Like, yeah.
I have to say that, as Ike, Adam, I want to call you Adam again. As Ike was saying, I think we're just so grateful that we got lucky and got you in charge of this project. And even if they do this again 10 years from now, 20 years from now, one thing is sure is that it'll never be done the way that you did it. It really was done with such care and love and appreciation of her. And so just thank you again for that, because we won't have something as beautifully put together as this was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yes.
Well, Adam, what's going to happen now? I mean, we have to have you back on for something, right? I mean, come on.
I don't know what's going to happen now. What's going to happen now? There are various irons in the fire. There are various projects. There are at least 6 different things that I'm trying to make happen at the moment, but none have got to the stage where I can possibly say what I can't really say what they are, because they're not even at the stage where I've started work on them or anything, because they're just still really in an idea stage. Right. And I'm hoping to happen. I hope one of them at least happens, and then I come knocking on your door and say, "Please."
I'm hoping you do, Adam. This can't be goodbye.
But yeah, there's bound to be something. It always feels. See, what is kind of when you're doing this kind of work is you're constantly putting these things out and like, oh, this will go, and then sometimes these licenses you put in an application for them, and literally 2 years later it gets approved. It's like, what are they doing for 2 years? And then suddenly, I don't know what's the machinations that are occurring in the license departments of these corporate divisions. Who knows? It's a mystery to me to a certain extent. What is worrying sometimes is you put like so many out, just keep putting them out, because one will happen is that suddenly then all of them. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
If that happens, then you have a nervous breakdown, because when you get these licenses, they're for a certain period. So it's like the license is approved, but you have to do it. It's been different actually with the Sheena thing with RT, because it was like a 5-year thing. So that's why these last, I think we're in the 4th year now, I've been able to work on it over that period of time.
Right. Because
the deal was a 5-year deal. But for the normally, in what I've done so far anyway, whether it's Sony or any of these companies, is you get the application, the license comes through, and you have 6 months to do it. You have to get it out within 6 months, which is fine. It's plenty of time, but not so easy. If then if you've got 4 or 5 all came in and you had to do them in the same time, that would be a bit tricky. But that's probably not going to happen, so I don't need to worry about it. So
I'm looking forward to an email from you, a message on Facebook, a Merry Christmas, whatever it is. Adam, thank you so much. And I'm telling you, the amount of support and love that you are receiving from the Sheena Easton fans is insane. You are
well deserved.
Yes, top notch, Adam. Grateful for these. So I don't want to get emotional, but all these years that you have been so supportive of our show and coming on and giving us the opportunity to interview you and talk about this amazing project has been overwhelming.
And I thank you for having both of us. This has been just a great talk, and the fans have enjoyed it. and we've enjoyed it. So thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really fun, and it's been great to find two people that are so, really, fans of Sheena and really listened to her music and appreciated it for how brilliant she is. As an artist, it's been great.
Insane. And a shout out to the world of Sheena Easton too. They are always posting, reposting, supporting.
Oh yeah.
So grateful for that. And Adam, I am just gonna knock on your door again. I have to.
And knock on my door.
You have to come to New York.
I'd love to. I haven't been to New York since
we should go to London.
Years.
Could do that.
Do you ever come to London?
I have,
but not recent. Not in the last few years.
Probably 2018 was the last time I was there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
What about you, Ike? When was the last time you were in London?
Let's see. I was born in '99. No, I have never been. I would love to.
You've never been?
Oh.
You've never to Europe?
Nope. No,
You've never left.
I officially received my passport last November because I was asked to perform on the Royal Caribbean, and I had to get it. I was forced to get it. I'm not a big.
That was the first time you had a. Oh, that was the first time you had a passport. You're like Aretha Franklin. You don't fly.
Yeah. Well, I hope you don't mean size-wise, but
one of the many things you have in common with the Queen of Soul.
That's why the plane's going down, honey. But yeah, that my first time out of the States was to perform, and I said I have to go. I'm not a good flyer.
So you went on a ship. So you need a passport to go on a ship.
Yeah, but I had a flight to get there. Yeah.
Oh, you had to fly to get to it. So where did you fly to?
I flew out of South Beach, Miami, Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you flew from New York to Florida.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I try to drive. If I'm performing, I try to drive versus flying. But obviously, if it's on the opposite coast, I have to fly.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yes, I'm an amazing travel partner. But Adam, thank you so much again from the bottom of our hearts. I appreciate you so much. I hate to say it, but this is the part where we wave goodbye.
We wave goodbye for now.
For now, correct.
Au
For
revoir.
now.